So I've been enjoying our time with Skeleton Crew so far, but something's missing. So I want to talk about the episodes today and see if we can figure out what it is. Because we both like it, right? You like it?
I like it.
You like it when you're watching it?
Yes, I don't like the idea of watching it. I don't know if you remember last night, you were like, let's watch Skeleton Crew. And I was like, no. But then I was watching it and I'm like, this is okay.
There was nothing pulling you back in because realistically all we've got to drive the plot forward is the mystery of At-Atten.
I think it's missing, hear me out here, I think it's missing adventure. We have a mystery, but we don't really have adventure.
Yep.
We have like a weird, I don't know, it's like a weird monster of the week show.
A small objective of the week.
Yes, it's very small. I'm not feeling, and I think it's because everything happens in like, it feels like 20 minutes in show time. So it doesn't feel like they're on this grand adventure. It feels like the show's going to finish and it's going to be like, oh, the first episode was 2 days ago or like 40 minutes ago or something.
Yeah, it does feel like they've only
Even
just
though they
left.
have slept, they slept in this episode to show like time passing when they were like going through hyperspace. But the actual adventure itself was too quick.
I think you're onto it, yeah, because if we compare this to its comparisons, right? So we've got Stranger Things and the Goonies. They do a lot more physical things in the Goonies especially.
Yeah.
Like they're running away several times. Like near the end, like they go through that whole tunnel system and end up in the water.
Yeah, the pirate ship. Is that the one?
Yeah, so like they've done that. And then you've got Stranger Things.
Well, Stranger Things has every character is doing their own fully fledged story trying to get to the bottom of the mystery.
Yeah, and they're getting attacked fairly often by either the FBI, the monsters, or
But
just
like there's action, there's drama, there's like
they have to
there's
lie to the
problems.
parents,
Yeah.
/ the parents don't believe them. So yeah, they're a lot more active, whereas these guys are kind of getting dragged from place to place a little bit, which I think might be the letdown there. So because like everyone's fine, like I don't love any character. I mean, Neil Fox.
Obviously.
We find out this episode.
Neil Fox.
The Rizzler.
What's the Jedi's name? I keep forgetting.
Judd.
John.
John?
John.
He changes it a few times. Crimson Jack is one of them. I think you are onto it though. Like that makes a lot of sense because yeah, they are getting dragged from place to place because once they discovered the spaceship, that's probably why the first episode felt so good because they were pushing towards something very definite. And then once they got there, they pretty much got dragged away. And then the second episode was SM-33 took them from the ship to the thing.
Yep.
Then they got captured. Then Judd helped them leave. And then in the third episode, Judd tells them, oh, we're going to my owl friend.
We're going to Wan Shitong's library.
Yes. She who knows 10,000 things. They get there. I didn't mind the third episode. It felt very short. The third episode felt a lot like the second episode, where it was very much like, oh, we've arrived in this place. We're going to do one thing and then we're going to leave.
Well, it's like they needed to find out a bit about Jack.
Not even find out. Someone says, he's mysterious, maybe.
And then Owl Lady's like, don't trust him. And he's like, you can trust me. And the kid's like, okay, we're kids.
KB totally could have stayed there and been like, oh, tell me more. Whereas it felt very much like The Last Jedi, how they call Maz Kanata and they're like, Maz, we need your help breaking this code. And she's like, I'm busy right now crawling through this vent on a hologram, but call this other guy, bye. Like, that's what the owl lady did. She was right there. She could have talked to KB. They could have been like, okay, so by the way, Jack smuggled this, like Jack betrayed me. He's only after your money. Instead, she's like, quickly run away. The good guys are coming. It was very confusing. But yeah, then they get dragged away from that scenario with the owl lady. And then they go to what they think is At-Atten.
Yeah.
So they think they're going home. But once they get there, I did get the vibes that I wanted. Like when they landed and everything was a little bit mysterious, I'm like, I want this to be like Fallout, where you discover a new vault and you think you're safe, or you're like, familiar territory, but there's something deep and dark there.
I think this show would work well as like a 20 episode long season.
Just a lot of adventure.
They're planet hopping. There's a different adventure. And how is our wacky crew going to get out of it this time?
It would have worked even in live action, just as a Lost in Space. Like, they have 20 planets in their database, and any of them could be At-Atten, and we won't know until we go. The kids don't know what the planet should look like, because they're kids. They've only ever looked up from the planet. They've never looked... Like, you can't get to At-Atten and be like, I know this planet. You give them a rickety old ship, they get to the planet, they have to land to repair. Or like the hyperdrive has a cooldown. I'm basically talking about Stargate Universe. A little bit formulaic, but that's probably what this show needs. They probably need a reason to be doing stuff rather than, let's go home. Instead, they get to the planet. They decide that the kids are going to go off by themselves and leave Smee and Judd alone because they don't trust him. But like these 4 kids are like, yes, even though this probably isn't our planet, we're going to go investigate.
It's like Akron or something. It's like, or something like very similar.
Oh, I remember the name of the planet. It's called @subscribe.
Just quickly, we do get a bit of timeline, maybe explanation in episode 3, where they're like, oh, what's around your planet? Like, what do you learn about? And they're like, oh, we learn about this, and we learn about Alderaan a bit. And she's like, whoa, would you miss the war or something? So this must take place at least after episode 4.
Yeah, it's Mando time, because everything is Mando time
It has to be,
now.
because who's going to save them at the end of this season?
It's going to be Luke Skywalker and the Mandalorian.
Grogu.
It's going to be Grogu.
Yeah.
And because they have missed that, and they talk a little bit more about the Great Works, it's definitely Republic time. They mention Republic, but I think it might be Old Republic.
Yeah.
Which is why their technology is stagnant in the 1950s.
And their currency is old too. And they say that the Republic made, or I don't know, put together 12 or something planets and hid them.
Yes, to keep them safe. It's that Fallout vibe. So with the mystery of Akron, once they arrive, everything's smoky.
It's like Uncanny Valley for the kids. They're like, this kind of looks like our like home, but everything's a bit weird and it smells like pee.
But it's post-apocalyptic. And it starts really interesting, I think, because then you're like, oh, what happened to this society?
Yeah.
But then we never find out. Instead, Neil rizzes up some princess.
Some child soldier.
Yeah, the daughter of the chief murder guy, who's a giant douchebag, and is like, child soldiers? Hell yeah. So like it's that Fallout vibe of as if everything went wrong, but it's as if we never get to read any of the logs or like see any of the cool skeletons like pointing guns at each other.
Well, it's like I would love each episode they go to each of the different Republic planets. Each of them failed it for a different way, just like a Fallout Vault.
Yep.
They all had like a different task, or the robot overseers, and this might be what it is. It would be very cool. We're like, oh, we're doing experiments on these humans because they get bored or whatever. And then at the end of the episode, you can go to a website attached to it. And I know this is extra work, but I think it would be very cool. You go to like a website, or you can get a comic based on that planet or something.
Find out about it in the good times.
And just find out about it, because that shit's fun as fuck in the context of like a Fallout game, for example. Just a mini story or a little something, just a little info dump.
Yeah, it needs something more. That would be the extra sauce. Because as it is with this episode, there's 2 warring factions on the planet. And they're always like, what flag do you fly? I guess that means there's more than 2 actually. Otherwise, you'd be like, oh, you're not one of us, you're the bad guy. So there's multiple warring factions on this planet. We only ever meet 2. They're both just killing each other for no reason. We don't see any of that killing either. We see like shooting into the smoke and like, but there's nothing interesting behind it. We don't find out like how the society fell or what these 2 factions, like why they differ. It's literally just these 2 are different.
What happened in the collapse of society that forced people to...
Yeah, like was there something more interesting before that? Was there an overseer doing naughty things, or was it just the food started to run out so people started to fight each other?
Yeah.
Which is a lot less interesting. But there's so many sci-fi shows that have done... Every 3rd episode of Doctor Who is Base Under Siege, where there's just 2 warring factions.
Like straight away, when you said it was like the episode where the Doctor gets his daughter.
Yes.
Like that was like just 2 warring factions.
And the super interesting thing is that that's been going on for 2 weeks.
And like no one understands it though, right?
Because they've been cloning each other. Like it's like, oh, there's 30 generations it's been going on for, but a generation lasts half a day because they die in this war. That's an interesting concept. This has none of that. This is literally just... oh, they're the bad guys. They stole our horses, so we're going to go send child soldiers to kill them. You guys are here now. You're our child soldiers.
Neil, fuck this French girl.
Yes, little French Revolution hints, which is weird because the Clone Wars did a whole arc on the Twi'lek planet. They made them all have French accents.
Oh, okay.
So Hera and her people were French Revolution, basically, because they were standing up to the oppressive...
the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, there was... Literally, that's... Everyone sounded like that, but it was a clever little thing because it was, especially because it was a show based at kids. It wasn't like too on the nose, and also the kids don't put up a "we're not gonna become child soldiers" because they're kids. What are they? They're not gonna say no. I think one of them says no for a second, and they're like, "Be a child soldier," and they're like, all right.
Yeah, they're very agreeable, but they get away with it because they're kids, and it's like, well, we listen to adults all the time. We should probably listen to the adult. It's like even when Jack gives them orders, and the owl lady's like, he's evil. It's like Jack's like, we're going, and they're like, okay, like, you know, it's like they're just going with who they think is the responsible adult, or not necessarily responsible, but who's going to get them to their goal. Like they don't have that critical thinking,
which is to its detriment, because in Stranger Things, when an adult thinks they're lying or disagrees with them, they say, screw you, we'll do our own thing, which could be a limitation of the fact we're planet hopping. You can't just ride your bike off and then come back to the parent later on and have like simultaneous storylines because you are light years away. So maybe it's just that.
In episode 3 and 4, we only get one clip of the parents. It's all the parents just in a room, and then it was to explain that there's like a higher power, kind of, right?
They talk about the overseer.
Yes, she says, I submitted a request to the overseer because the overseer is like, well, they're like, oh, we're doing everything we can. I'm going to have a meeting with the overseer. And then the robot comes in who's like looking for them and says, well, we can't look for them because they left the barrier.
And also the overseer doesn't talk to people.
Yes.
Sorry. So that was at the start. And we're like, oh, we are doing Fallout maybe. But then never go back to it. That was literally just to reintroduce the idea that the overseer is a thing because they go into the overseer's tower at the end of the episode. And I guess just to remind us that the parents exist, but the parents don't do anything. We're halfway through now, so like the parents should have at least already been trying to look for their kids.
Yeah.
Instead, they're all just like, oh man, when are they going to come back? But the child soldiers are sent out. They don't see any battle, and then they're just saved by Judd.
He somehow, which would have been the most interesting thing, is to see how he got out of that situation. The last we see of him is he goes off the ship, and then he gets surrounded by the bad guys. And then he's like, just shoot me. Like, he's like, I don't want to deal with it. But then next time you see him, he's like, they made me their king, you know? He's like, I just gave them money.
Yeah, it could have been a really fun character trait of that he is just like, I want this treasure, but like, this is a lot of work now. I'm not going to like kill 20 dudes for this treasure.
Yeah.
But instead, it's like off screen, he gives them the money that he found in Wim's sock. And it's like, okay, cool. I guess that was like very Deus Ex Machina. Like, why does this have to happen? Just like, are we just going to buy our way out of every problem?
Yeah, well, it's like they're running out of money. And there should definitely be more of an emphasis. And if it was a longer show, it probably could, is show me how much money they have left. Because they're solving all their problems by using money.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it would be a better, I don't know, it'd be better for the show to show us like, oh, we only have one credit left to get us home. Like, you know, it adds a bit more tension.
Yeah, it'd be tension, it'd be a problem. Whereas because they are solving every problem pretty simply, it doesn't exist. But so most of this episode is spent by Neil rizzing up the princess of French Revolution. And it's good with him. Like, the kid's a great actor, especially considering he's under a goddamn elephant head. Like, impressive work. It's not deep enough to actually mean anything. But the chick is basically like, oh, I grew up in war. Like, war's all I know. And then Neil's like, I think I'd just apologize. I'm a bit of a coward. And then she's like, being a coward makes you kind or something.
They both find an appreciation for each other's lives because even he's like, come with me. My planet it's peaceful. Like, there's no strife or anything. But then you see he kind of is like, oh, like, it's taking away from everything that she's fought for here and like will diminish it.
And at the end, he uses her bravery. Like, he realizes they need to be brave and he helps out the other guys when they're in a bit of strife.
Yeah.
Which he wouldn't have done earlier. But also, KB in episode 3 and 4 does 0 things. So she's very useless.
Even though we find out that she is a supercomputer, essentially.
But we also use her less than a droid.
Elon Musk and Neuralink.
They don't even use her like a droid. It's like, there's not like a door and she's like, beep boop, door's open.
She has a megaphone maybe in her visor?
She does for a minute there, yeah. Like, the whole character could be replaced by a lockpick, basically, which is not what you want.
Yeah.
Whereas one fun thing that George Lucas once said about Star Wars was it's all told from R2-D2's perspective, which is why he never gets his mind wiped and why he always saves everone. Like, he's always the hero when he rocks up.
Yep.
Whereas, this chick is a screwdriver. I'm like, cool. But also in episode 3, she's a bit of a coward randomly.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, oh, I can't run across this corridor because the bad guys will see me. Oh, no. And then Judd does force powers, but then later on he's like, I never said I was a Jedi. And then he hasn't used force powers in a little while too.
But then he like flexes them on the ship and like turns off the lights with them.
Yeah, so either he has like
I'm a Jedi.
Either an electromagnetic gauntlet or I don't know. The interplay between the kids is still fun. Like, mainly between Wim and Fern. Like, they rib each other a lot. She's constantly like, you're an idiot, you're childish. Because young girls are usually more mature than, like, a dumb boy. Because boys are very impulsive. And that's what he's doing. He's constantly being impulsive. He's
like, check out this minigun.
Yeah, he, like, fires off a minigun, for fuck's sake. Which they just gave him because child soldiers, that's fine. And he's like, he has to be a Jedi. He moved the keys. Name one way to move a key. And she names like 7 ways, like repulsor lifts, magnets. And he's like, shit.
Yeah.
We were also right that he's going to be like the onboarding to the story in episode 1 and 2. And then he's going to basically take a backseat. Yeah. Especially in this episode where Neil took the front row. But then they get set free because Judd pays a bunch of money. And they're like, cool, you have your horses. I'll take these children. He does a couple of smugglery, like Han Solo, like, wait a minute, how much are you going to give me for these kids? Maybe I will sell them. Nah, I'm just messing with you. But he's definitely a good guy, not a bad guy.
Yeah, but talk to me about that ending. The little French girl says, I need to take them to the sacred texts. Or
the kid's like, damn, do you know any addresses of the other planets? And she's like, oh, I don't. But they're totally written up in that big scary tower over there.
Yeah. I guess we could go to the secret ancient monolith of hidden secrets. And they're like, damn, okay.
And then that's the overseer's office. He's got all of the addresses around the room.
Yes.
And then Fern uses her smarts to override SM33's memory banks because he's constantly throughout the episode saying, I ain't never heard of no At-Atten.
Name of the episode.
Because he was reprogrammed and they realized that. It was very obvious, but again, kids show, you got to make it a little bit of a mystery, not too much of a mystery. And they try to override him and he sets off like my captain told me to murder anyone that
tries to look for At-Atten.
Even though the captain is dead on that ship that they found Smee on. Like, we saw him.
Fern is the new captain, and he's like acknowledged that she's the new captain.
Yeah, so then he tries to kill them, and then Neil uses his Riz powers to throw a block and like distracts him for a second, and then Robot does the whole, I was going to kill these kids right in front of me, but that guy over there threw a rock, so I'm going to go kill him now instead. Goes to kill Neil, and then Judd just turns him off.
Yeah, we conveniently find out that he has like a switch, like the episode before.
Yeah, which again, it's a little ex machina that this big robot can be taken down so easily. I'm mainly more annoyed that it's Judd that did it again. Like, give KB a second to shine. Like, KB jumps on his back and undoes him. Fuck, give it to the mouse that's in Smee's eyeball. Make the mouse be like, dude, this isn't cool.
Like, sees him attacking like Neil, and he like Neil was feeding him in the other episode.
Neil does feed him.
So it's like Bond.
Have the mouse pull out and go like, what the?
And then like,
just
shoot
like
some
show
wires
him
in
to
his
a
head or
wire.
something.
Yep, we solved it. Damn. Disney, give me money.
But then they find a pillar with maybe At-Atten's address, but it's been destroyed.
Yes, Smee destroyed it, which means they now need to go to one of the other addresses to go to their overseer tower to then find hopefully a pristine At-Atten sculpture. I don't know why they chose At-Atten as the treasure planet, because Smee only destroyed one of the coordinates. Why would he not destroy all of them? Because surely all of these planets have Republic credits. Why would At-Atten be the one with the Republic credits?
Because everyone knows about At-Atten specifically, so maybe each of them were special in a different way.
That's the treasury planet.
That's the treasury planet. That's what they do there.
I guess they do. Everyone does say that their parents are analysts, which is another little like.
I thought Fern's mum was like someone very important, but she's like, oh, she's in admin.
That's what the first episode
but then
also
again,
does.
She is a child. And you know how kids always like, what does your dad do? It's like, oh, he's a builder.
But the intro says that Fern's mum isn't the overseer and that she can't easily talk to the overseer. She had to make a petition.
Making it like a,
So she's not high enough, which we thought might be interesting that, like she finds out her mum is the evil genius behind something. But yeah, it's missing sauce. It's enjoyable to watch while I'm watching it. It's delightful. It's fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously. But yeah, between episodes, I'm like,
Yeah, it's like, will I watch the next episode? Of course I will. But is it like, oh boy, 5 more days until this comes out?
Wednesday night.
No,
like,
it's not going to get that feeling. And
we should get an actual child's opinion. We'll go kidnap a child and we'll force them to watch the show and then interview them.
Smart. Or,
allegedly,
if you're a child and you're watching, send me your parents' credit card information.
Do you think there's something missing from the show? What's the source? What's the source behind the show? Let us know.